Our jobs are incredibly rewarding and fulfilling, and they also require a lot of energy and time. And I think that throughout our careers and throughout our journeys in life, there are so many times where we have to rely on one another or pull resources or support from each other because there's just so much to know in our fields, whether it's specific to various areas of treatment or diagnosis or just challenges that we've had in navigating trickier clients. It's so wonderful to have people in this community to support each other and rely on one another.
Hey there, and welcome to the Speechy Side Up podcast. My name is Benita Litvack, and I am so grateful you're here. I'm an ASHA certified speech language pathologist, author, and augmentative and alternative communication consultant who is obsessed with helping SLPs like you stop reinventing the wheel and connect with other SLPs in the trenches. Have you ever wondered how other SLPs seem to be doing it all with ease? Well, around here, you'll get to hear firsthand how SLPs are really getting things done while keeping evidence-based practice and self-care in mind. Think of this as a coffee date with your SLP friends. Get ready to be challenged and encouraged while we learn together. Today, I'm joined by my friend Samantha Novick, a speech language pathologist and owner of Bridge Therapy, a private speech therapy practice here in South Florida. She graduated from the University of Florida and earned her master's degree in speech language pathology at Nova Southeastern University. She is recognized by Apraxia Kids for advanced training and expertise in childhood apraxia of speech and is a LAMP certified professional. She has presented at national conferences, including the ATIA Conference and the Apraxia Kids National Conference. Since 2018, Samantha has served as president of the Friendship Journey, a nonprofit organization that creates authentic connections amongst friends of all abilities through meaningful experiences. In 2020, Samantha developed a virtual camp for teens and adults with disabilities, Camp Wings of Friendship, that serves campers nationwide and is now entering its 5th summer. Samantha is passionate about amplifying the voices of others and creating accessible spaces through her professional and volunteer work. She enjoys exploring nature, traveling, reading, and spending time with family and friends. We're so glad to have you here today.
Sam, thank you so much for coming. Does that cover everything, or is there anything else you'd like to add before we talk about CAS and your nonprofit organizations?
Yes, thank you. No, I'm so excited to be here and excited for this conversation with the two of you.
Amazing. Well, Sam, this isn't our first time chatting. You joined us for Apraxia Connect back in 2023, and we have known each other for how many years now? Like, I want to say 7, maybe around there, or maybe
I
less.
think, I think it's been more actually. I think it's been, yeah, maybe 7 or 8 years.
Wow. Oh, I love it. I love how we always come back to each other too. And you've been super instrumental in me growing my private practice lately. And I'm so appreciative of that. So, why do you feel like it's important to have friends, mentors, and colleagues who support you and elevate your work throughout your career?
Yeah, well, thank you again for having me here. I think this is a perfect example of that. I really love how our friendship has grown and evolved throughout the years, Vanita, and the changes that we've had in our careers since we first met. And I always remember how supportive you've always been. And an early conversation, actually, that we had when you first wrote your books, when I commented that I always had dreamed and thought about pursuing a venture on my own, but I had expressed to you some fears that I had in doing so. And I'll always remember how encouraging and supportive you were at that point in my career. And I think that that's really the importance of having colleagues and mentors and friends in the field. Our jobs are incredibly rewarding and fulfilling, and they also require a lot of energy and time. And I think that throughout our careers and throughout our journeys in life, there are so many times where we have to rely on one another or pull resources or support from each other because there's just so much to know in our fields, whether it's specific to various areas of treatment or diagnosis or just challenges that we've had in navigating trickier clients. It's so wonderful to have people in this community to support each other and rely on one another. It makes me think of a quote that I have in our office that says, "A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor." And I read that every day and I think about that often. And especially during times where maybe a session was more challenging, or I really want to provide the right support to a child. And I think that it sort of extends beyond that in our community, that we might be traveling in different boats, but we're all on this same journey, and ultimately we all have the same destination together, that we want to make the most out of our careers and really make a difference in the lives of the families that we serve.
I love that. Yeah. I thank you for sharing that story with me, because when you talk with people, you don't really know how your words are going to resonate with them. So the fact that that has resonated with you for so long means so much to me. And I just like love seeing how much you've blossomed and where you're at now. You have a successful private practice here in South Florida. You've got your nonprofit organizations. You're helping the community in so many ways. So I love it.
To you, Benita. You've done so much since we first met and had that conversation. So it's really cool to see how you've grown over time, and the community that you've developed. And I'm really happy to be connected with you too, Nicole.
Oh, yeah, it's been very nice to meet you. And I know even from what I learned from you and your volunteer work when we did Apraxia Connect, and it's been nice like following up on those on socials and seeing all that you've accomplished. So if I can ask, what do you love most about your practice?
That's a great question. There are so many things that I love about bridge therapy that it's hard to choose just one. I really value my team members and how supportive we are of one another and how we motivate each other. I love our families and I love the relationships that we've established with our clients. Watching them grow over time, it's really such a gift. I recently was looking back on old photos and videos of clients that we've been working with for a few years now. And it's just amazing to see the growth and how much they've evolved over time, and how amazing their communication sounds, and how much they've blossomed in their lives, in all aspects of their lives. And mostly, I think what I really love is that we get to provide people with this ultimate gift of communication. And I really love to nerd out with my team. And I think that it's so wonderful that my geeky obsession with humans communicating and connecting is a job that I get to do each day. So it's really fun.
That's awesome.
Well, can you tell us more about the friendship journey in case anybody listening to this is interested in volunteering, supporting, starting their own nonprofit organization? And what is Camp Wings of Friendship and the importance of friendship building for people with disabilities?
Yeah. So the friendship journey really came about because there was a really big need in our community to make those meaningful connections, especially for people with disabilities who already face so many challenges, because at times society and the environments around us are not built to be inclusive and accessible. And oftentimes, when we think of accessibility or inclusion, we might think of maybe a physical space, and that's really important too. And beyond that is a meaningful way to connect with those around you. And there's research that shows that people with disabilities often feel senses of loneliness. The incidences of depression and isolation are significantly increased. And I think that that's really been amplified over the years, especially with the impact of COVID. And the friendship journey was really created as a way to combat some of those challenges and really create a sense of community and connection. So, the mission of our organization is to create friendships amongst people of all ages and all abilities. And we do that through partnerships that we have in the community with different activities and program directors who lead different experiences in the community. So a lot of times, because people might have difficulties with communicating, or they might have a physical disability, or they might respond to the environment around them in a different way, there really is limited access when it comes to making friends. And so we have partners, including those at the Broward Center for the Performing Arts. So we have theater, acting, singing, and dancing. We have a dance program and a partnership with the city of Coconut Creek. We have a partnership with an organization called Kindness Shared, Happiness Squared at a farm with local rescued animals. We have a program for art and painting at Plaster Carousel. And we have a partnership with the Florida Panthers, where they started South Florida's first special hockey team, also with the American Special Hockey Association. And they also offer us tickets and opportunities to go and engage and support the team. So we've been really lucky to have amazing partners in the community, and they provide the space for us to make those connections. And then the next step is really teaching individuals of all ages and all abilities how to form those meaningful and authentic connections. It's a little different than maybe a traditional buddy system, where it's really important to us that the friendships are authentic. And so we also teach and provide opportunities for the participants and the volunteers to learn what a meaningful, authentic friendship looks like. And then that's really expanded. During COVID in 2020, we started a virtual summer camp for teens and adults with disabilities called Camp Wings of Friendship. It was inspired by Camp Jeanette, which is a camp that really sparked the disability rights movement. There's a documentary on Netflix called Crip Camp. If you haven't had an opportunity to see it, I would highly recommend it. It's really an unbelievable story, and it's an untold story. And I think it just often, it really shows that people with disabilities and their stories aren't always told. And so that inspired us to create this summer camp and create this sense of community. And we started it virtually during a time of need. And every year I always wonder if people are going to still want to come to a virtual summer camp, but each year it's actually grown. And we've really been surprised that the virtual component allows us to expand into different spaces, and it creates more options for accessibility for people in all locations of all abilities to access the programming. So it's wonderful. I love the friendship journey, and I'm really grateful to be part of it.
I love that. I want to talk a little bit about, because you said it started in 2020. And I think you alluded to the fact that with COVID and not having access to in-person camps, it came out of that need. You did a lot of things to adapt during COVID, like adapt your private practice. You did a lot of traveling with your husband during that time. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great question. I remember a friend and someone who I deeply admire sharing a story during COVID about, and I might be misspeaking a bit, but this just made me think of it when you asked that question. This true story about how they had built this golf course. I think it maybe was in India, but I'm not quite sure. And there were these monkeys that kept coming onto the golf course, and they kept taking the ball and moving the ball in different places, and how that was impacting them playing golf. And it was really frustrating. And they kept trying to build all these barriers and work around it to avoid the monkeys coming onto the golf course. But they were unsuccessful each time. And then eventually they adapted, and they just sort of adjusted the game where they could play where the ball was dropped. And the lesson from that is, in life, sometimes we don't know where the ball is going to drop. And sometimes the wind or the monkeys or something that we don't expect just kind of picks it up and moves it. And I think that COVID really taught us how to adjust during those times and kind of just play where the ball is dropped and keep on moving forward, even if it's not what we anticipated. And I really look back on that time and I reflect a lot. And it's a good constant reminder when life or when work or when things don't go as planned or are stressful and a little bit unpredictable. So many wonderful things were kind of birthed during that time. We never would have started this virtual summer camp had COVID not happened, and we created it out of a need. We also adapted our practice to do teletherapy at that time. And now we have a hybrid opportunity for both in-person and teletherapy options. And same with the friendship journey. So we have in-person programming in South Florida, and then we also continue the virtual summer camp, which is offered to campers nationwide. And something else that grew out of Camp Wings of Friendship is we now provide, for the past few summers, we've provided the opportunity for speech language pathology students in their undergraduate and graduate programs to serve as counselors at camp. So it's an opportunity for them to meet campers who have a variety of different complex communication needs, and also for them to see how to apply their clinical skills in a very functional real world setting and application. And I think it gives the chance too for students who maybe are used to seeing young children an opportunity to see, okay, this is what this person might present like, or what their needs might be when they're in their teens or when they're in their 20s. Because when we think about things like communication, sometimes we think of the really standard basic needs, but teenagers and young adults, they're pursuing things like how to navigate a conflict in a friendship and romantic relationships and employment and college. And so there are all these different components of life that we all navigate that individuals with communication needs might need extra support with. So it also opened up this other opportunity for speech pathology students to really learn from this experience. And they've added so much value to the experience too. So I think it's all just a reminder that life is pretty unpredictable. I don't think anyone anticipated the impact of COVID. And it's really just a matter of kind of playing where that ball is dropped.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that. I brought it up because I think it's so important for SLPs who are in private practice to know that it's not always perfect, that they're not alone if they're going through any struggles. And also, I loved the way you've adapted to the ball, being dropped or being moved. Some of the things that you've put in place, I've started doing in my practice because mine is so new. I'm so glad I can get started on the right foot, just by communicating with you. For instance, like not having just 30-minute sessions back to back, doing 45-minute sessions, then doing 5 minutes of parent education towards the end so that you're not tiring yourself out with all of these 30-minute sessions back to back. Not doing the evaluation the first session, getting to know the client first, building rapport, making sure they're actually committed to therapy and not just getting in an evaluation and then running off to, get therapy somewhere else. Those have been really, really instrumental in my practice so far. So thank you for those tips.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I think it goes back to what we were speaking about earlier about that sense of community and connection with others who are in the same boat, so to speak, or who are not in the same boat, but who are riding similar waves. And it's funny you say that because some of those lessons I learned from making those mistakes and having those challenges and having to adapt. And some of those I learned from a mentor of mine who has a private practice, who learned a lot of these lessons and shared some of this advice. So I think I remember Judy Heumann, who she's like the queen of the disability rights movement, and she's featured in the film Crip Camp, and she shares her story. She recently passed away. And a lot of times her words really resonate with us. She came to speak at camp for 4 summers. Was it 4 summers? Maybe 3 summers. And something that she said is, we are all building a chain. We're all like a link in this chain together. And I think about that a lot because sometimes when I'm going through something stressful at the practice, I just wonder, what lesson is going to come from this? Because I can look back at any other hardship or any other challenge. And now with enough time, I can see the lesson that was gained. So I'm so glad that you are now running a successful private practice and that we can bounce ideas off of each other. And it really goes back to that chain. You were an early seed that was planted for me in how encouraging you were. And even in just seeing somebody else who wanted to do something a little bit different with their career and really was dedicated and passionate about going in the direction that your heart was taking you in, even when you felt like you were going alone. And I remember us having that conversation very early when I think I was a CF at the time when we had that conversation, Benita. And it really taught me a lot. And it's something that I still think about now. So it just makes me so happy to know that some of the lessons that I've learned, I'm able to share with you because you have shared so much with me.
Oh, thank you.
If I can also ask, if where would you seek like mentors or maybe other colleagues that could help you like furthering your career or other areas within the field, maybe for a new grad or a CF or somebody who's new in the field? Do you have any advice for someone like that?
I think the best advice that I would give is keep going towards that thing that makes your heart happy and that makes you feel excited and that lights you up. There's so many different areas in this field that we can specialize in, and there are so many different components that we can learn, whether it's directly related to the work that we're doing day to day or using the skills that we have to give back to our community through philanthropic work, for example. So I think whatever makes you feel excited and whatever makes you feel happy to get up in the morning, that's the thing to kind of continue pursuing. And then through that pursuit, that's where people in your community just tend to kind of come into your life. I know that that's not a great specific example, but when I really think about all of the friends and the colleagues and the mentors that I have, those are people that have come into my life because of a shared passion. Like, for example, I know I met Vanita early on in my career because I was really interested in learning more about AAC. And at the time, Vanita was the PRC rep, and she taught me so much about LAMP. And I remember having a friend and a mentor that I could reach out to and seek support. I also think, for early grads, keeping in touch with those mentors and supervisors and professors that you really connected with is super important. I have mentors and who were my former professors and are now my colleagues and friends. We sort of have a joke because I can't call them by their first name. Like, I still haven't gotten to that point because I still think of them as my supervisors and professors. So I think that that's really important to keep in mind, that those who are mentors and supporters early in your career and maybe even in grad school, to continue to connect with them, reach out to them every few months and see how they're doing and seek support from them. And I think not being afraid to ask for help when you need it. I know that's easy to say, but very hard to do. I think in our field, it tends to attract very results driven people and at times personalities where we really don't always like to be vulnerable or like to ask for help or like to say that we're in a time of need. But I found that when I lean into that and I reach out to those in my community for support, that's when our connection actually grows. And I always learn something new from that experience.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that also helps to keep those relationships authentic and not just make you reached out 5 years later, but help like grow and network in the field as well. So I know that
Yeah.
you have an Apraxia Kids National Conference. What are you looking forward to most with that?
Oh, there's so many things I'm looking forward to. And I think that this really ties so many components of this conversation together. one area of specialty that I'm super passionate about is childhood apraxia of speech. And that passion has really grown over time throughout my career. And I was privileged to be part of the Apraxia Boot Camp, which is an intensive training for speech pathologists who specialize in childhood apraxia of speech. And what I didn't anticipate from that boot camp is that I would develop this amazing sisterhood, really. We call ourselves the Sunshine Sisters because part of the group boot camp is they separate you into different groups. And that was our group. We were the yellow color. So we called ourselves Sunshine Sisters. And all of my Sunshine girls are going to the national conference. So I'm super excited to see them there. They're SLPs from around the country who also are fellow nerds. And we just love to talk about apraxia all day long. So I'm really excited to see them. And I always leave the conference coming back invigorated. So I'm just excited for the energy of a conference. Apraxia Kids does such an amazing job of putting the conference together. What I really love about the Apraxia Kids conference that's unique is that it's geared towards both professionals and families. So there's really this community that's built around apraxia. It's families, parents who have children with apraxia. It's people who have apraxia themselves. And it's also professionals, including speech language pathologists, researchers, and other therapists or related professionals who are interested in learning more about apraxia. So it's just so wonderful to get the perspectives from all of these different people who share the same passion, but maybe are at different parts in their journey. Some, are families who are very new and their child maybe just got diagnosed. And then you have, seasoned researchers, and then you have SLPs early in their careers and ones who've been doing it for 20 plus years. So the combination is just really meaningful because it allows opportunities for us to learn from these different perspectives. And then, of course, I really value and am maybe most excited about the people with apraxia themselves coming to the conference, because I always love learning about their lived experience and what their journeys have been like. One of the presentations that I'm doing at the conference is alongside 4 young adults with apraxia, and they are sharing about their experience growing up with CAS, and they all have very different perspectives and very unique experiences. So I'm really looking forward to that. And our team is also all going to the conference this year, and it's in Pittsburgh, which is one of my favorite cities. So there's just so many things that I'm looking forward to. I really can't wait.
Sounds awesome. It sounds like a really cool conference to attend. I'll have to look into it in the future, but I hope you have a great time, and you're speaking as well, right?
Yes, I'm doing 2 presentations this year. I'm super excited.
With one of your old mentors.
Yes, exactly. With one of my old mentors, someone that you know as well, Dr. Bergstrom. So I'm really excited for that presentation. We're going to be talking about AAC and CAS alongside another colleague, Patricia Mayrow, who I just recently got connected to through Dr. Bergstrom. And then I'm also doing a presentation that I shared with you alongside individuals with apraxia and talking about their experience and how SLPs can support people with CAS throughout the lifespan. Because I think a lot of times when we think about apraxia, we just think about the impact for young children, but not necessarily for teens, young adults, and further into adulthood.
Right, right. Oh, it sounds amazing. I'll definitely have to keep an eye out for when you go. I'll be following along on social media. So people want to find and connect with you. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so we're on social media for both Bridge Therapy and the Friendship Journey. On Instagram, it's Bridge Therapy and the Friendship Journey FL.
Awesome. Sam, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure as always. And I can't wait till I get to see you again. We have a lunch date coming up, right?
We do. We do
Yeah.
have a lunch date I'm very much looking forward to it and always love hearing all of your updates. And thank you both again. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I always love listening to your podcasts and all the wonderful guests that you have on. So I'm truly honored to be here and appreciate your time.
Well, thanks, Sam. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening. By the way, have you joined the SSU crew yet? By joining, you get access to the free good section on our website, plus podcast updates, special event notifications, and therapy inspiration. You can sign up at bit.ly/join SSU crew, all lowercase, or just find the link in this episode description. Also, don't forget to take a screenshot of this episode so that you can always refer back to it, and share it on social media if you really love the topic. Take care, and remember to always fill your speechy side cup first before you can pour into others.